Hello students, in today's session let us learn about climate change. So, what is climate change? Climate change is a change in the statistical distribution of weather patterns when that change lasts for an extended period of time, that is decades to millions of years. Climate change may refer to a change in average weather conditions or in the time variation of weather around longer term average conditions, that is more or fewer extreme weather events. Climate change is caused by factors such as biotic processes, variations in solar radiations received by earth, plate tectonics and volcanic eruptions. Certain human activities have also been identified as significant causes of recent climate change, often referred to as global warming. According to Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, abbreviated as IPCC, climate change refers to a change in the state of the climate that can be identified. Example, using statistical tests by changes in the mean and or the variability of its properties, and that persists for an extended period, typically decades or longer. It refers to any change in climate over time, whether due to natural variability or as a result of human activity. This usage differs from that in the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, abbreviated as UNFCCC, where climate change refers to a change of climate that is attributed directly or indirectly to human activity that alters the composition of the global atmosphere, and that is in addition to natural climate variability observed over comparable time periods. The average temperature in many regions has been increasing in recent decades. The global average surface temperature has increased by 0.6 plus 0.2 degrees over the last century. Globally, 1998 was the warmest year and the 1990s the warmest decade on record. Many countries have experienced increases in rainfall, particularly in the countries situated in the mid to high latitudes. In some regions such as parts of Asia and Africa, the frequency and intensity of droughts have been observed to increase in recent decades. Episodes of El Nino, which creates great storms, have been more frequent, persistent and intense since mid 1970s compared with the previous 100 years. All these are signs that the earth is sick. Its climate is changing, making it more difficult for mankind to survive. The earth is losing its ability to balance itself due to the imbalances created by human activities. Projections of future climate change are derived from a series of experiments made by computer based global climate models. These are worked out on estimates of aspects such as future population growth and energy use. Climatologists of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change have reviewed the results of several experiments in order to estimate changes in climate in the course of this century. These studies have shown that in the near future, the global mean surface temperature will rise by 1.4 to 5.8 degrees Celsius. Warming will be greatest over land areas and at high latitudes. The projected rate of warming is greater than has occurred in the last 10,000 years. The frequency of weather extremes is likely to increase, leading to floods or drought. There will be fewer cold spells, but more heat waves. The frequency and intensity of El Nino is likely to increase. Global mean sea level is projected to rise by 9 to 88 centimeters by the year 2100. More than half of the world's population now lives within 60 kilometers of the sea. They are likely to be seriously impacted by ingress of salt water and by the rising sea. Some of the most vulnerable regions are the Nile Delta in Egypt, the Ganges Brahmaputra Delta in Bangladesh, and many small islands including the Marshall Islands and the Maldives. What are the impacts of climate change on human? Human societies will be seriously affected by extremes of climate such as droughts and floods. A changing climate would bring about changes in the frequency and or intensity of these extremes. This is a major concern for human health. To a large extent, public health depends on safe drinking water, sufficient food, secure shelter and good social conditions. All these factors are affected by climate change. Fresh water supplies will be seriously affected, reducing the availability of clean water for drinking and washing during drought as well as floods. Water can be contaminated and sewage systems may be damaged. The risk of spread of infectious diseases such as diarrheal diseases will increase. Food production will be seriously reduced in vulnerable regions directly and also indirectly through an increase in pests and plant or animal diseases. The local reduction in food production would lead to starvation and malnutrition with long term health consequences, especially for children. Food and water shortages may lead to conflicts in vulnerable regions with serious implications for public health. Climate change related impacts on human health could lead to displacement of a large number of people, creating environmental refugees and lead to further health issues. Changes in climate may affect the distribution of vector species, example mosquitoes, which in turn will increase the spread of diseases such as malaria and filariasis to new areas which lack a strong public health infrastructure. The seasonal transmission and distribution of many diseases that are transmitted by mosquitoes like dengue, yellow fever and by ticks like Lyme disease, tick-borne encephalitis may spread due to climate change. A task group set up by WHO, that is World Health Organization, has warned that climate change may have serious impacts on human health. Climate change will increase various current health problems and may also bring new and unexpected ones. Strategies aimed at reducing potential health impacts of anticipated climate changes should include monitoring of infectious diseases and disease vectors to detect early changes in the incidence of diseases and the geographical distribution of vectors, environmental management measures to reduce risk, disaster preparedness for floods or droughts and their health related consequences. It will be necessary to create early warning systems and education for epidemic preparedness. Improved water and air pollution control will become increasingly essential for human health. Public education will have to be directed at changes in personal behavior. Training of researchers and health professionals must become an essential part of the world, becoming more responsible towards the expected outcome of global climate change. Now, we shall take up two case studies of climate change. The first one, damage of coral reefs in Pacific. The severity of periodic warmings due to El Nino in 1997 in the Pacific led to the most serious death in coral reef ever known. It is estimated that about 10% of the Earth's coral reefs were dead. Another 30% were seriously affected and another 30% were degraded. The Global Coral Reef Monitoring Network, Townsville, Australia, has predicted that all the reefs could be dead by 2050. The second case study, butterfly populations in the United Kingdom. Global warming is leading to an early arrival of butterflies in Britain. Scientists say that butterflies can now be spotted much earlier every year in the last 2 decades. Some, like the red admiral, can now be seen a month earlier than was the case in the mid 1970s. Others, like the peacock and the orange tip, are appearing between 15 and 25 days earlier than in the past. Future rise in temperature is likely to have a detrimental effect on these butterflies. Some butterflies which need cooler temperatures might suffer. Hope you have got a good insight on climate change. Until we meet again, bye.